From South Carolina Public Radio, this is Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray. And hey, don't change that channel. Don't touch that dial. This week, we're delving into the history of television.
That's right, Brand. Coming up this hour, we'll flex your TV trivia muscles, look back on famous presidential TV gaffes, and see if you can spot real TV shows from fake ones.
Ooh.
Plus, we'll speak with a Clemson University professor about the cultural impact of television.
Do you want to be a contestant for these games? All you got to do is call or text us, 803-470-6347. That's 803-470-6347. Or you can send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org. You're going to get a shot to take on the title of the Who What When Champion of the Week. And if that's not good enough, you might take home a very special trophy. You know what I'm talking about. It's the Who What When Fanny Pack.
That's exactly right, Brand. You could even put your TV remote right in that fanny
Honestly,
pack.
perfect for it.
Yeah,
Perfect
no
for
kidding. Brand, we're talking television today, the history of the medium, the ways politicians have used it, and the sometimes weird programs that have made their way onto our TV screens.
There's definitely been a lot of them, Dano. Do you have a favorite TV show?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I love the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul,
Yep.
Arrested Development, and Community are two of my favorites. Also, The Leftovers, a show not many people know on HBO Max.
Yeah.
You seen any of those?
No,
You haven't seen any of those?
I mainly watch Tanner Two Toes.
Tanner Two Toes.
Yeah. I like Dog Goes Far.
Dog Goes Far.
Yeah, we watched that one together.
Dog Goes Far. What
Yeah.
channel was that on?
That was on ABCS.
ABCS.
Yeah.
What about a real show? Do you have a show that people would know if they heard it?
I don't appreciate what you're saying right now.
I think it's time to get to our callers, Brand.
Yeah, I think you're right. We have two contestants on the line right now. Caller number one, what's your name and where are you from?
My name is Heidi, and I'm from Simi Valley, California.
Heidi from California.
Heidi, have you had any experience with the television?
Well, when I was a kid, I was the human remote control.
Oh.
So that's the beginning of my experience with television.
I am old enough to remember my very young years in Hopkins, South Carolina.
Shout out.
Where my dad, the knob to click fell off, and my dad put pliers. And locked the pliers in, and I would have to walk up and grab the pliers and rotate them around. That's exactly right. Yeah. So I'm maybe older than you think if you're listening right now. Shout out Hopkins, South Carolina.
You look different than I thought you would.
Yeah.
I'll say that
Of course, at the very, very least. And I'll take that as a compliment. Heidi, thanks for playing this week. Let's meet your opponent. Caller number 2. What's your name? Where are you from?
David from Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville.
David from Asheville, North Carolina.
How about
That's right.
that?
That's right.
Dave, what's your experience with the TV? You had one?
Yeah, had one growing up. Mostly had to go to grandma's to get to watch the TV because she would let us. Get her to get the permission at my house.
Dave, thanks for playing with us. Let's get rolling on our first game.
Let's do it.
It's a little game we call Who What You Talking About When?
Man, that's a name right there.
Who What You Talking About When? I don't know. That's from a TV show, Brandon.
I've heard it. Yes,
that's right. These are all questions about the history of television. We're going to kind of walk through the years from all the way back in 1929 when RCA first started experimenting with TV transmissions.
Okay.
First question is for you, Heidi. Here we go. RCA's first experimental TV transmission began all the way back in 1929. These transmissions weren't for the public, just trials, and were mainly still photos of this infamous cartoon character. Is it A, Felix the Cat, B, Mickey Mouse, or C, Popeye? What do you think, Heidi?
Well, if you're saying infamous cartoon character, I wouldn't describe Mickey Mouse as that. And Mickey Mouse was only a year old at that point, because you said 1929, correct?
I did, yes.
So Mickey Mouse was widely known in 1928. So infamous, I would say Felix the Cat.
So Heidi talked that out, and I'm a little concerned that maybe she should be hosting this program. That was crazy.
That was crazy, and I actually think we just lost Dave. I think Dave left.
That is correct, Heidi. And
wow, really well done.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, Heidi, you're on the board. That's one. Dave, your first question here on Who What You Talking About When?
Great.
Television was first introduced to the general public at the 1939 World's Fair in this city. St. Louis, New York, Montreal.
Let's see. So we're introducing the television to the world I remember the New York being a big one. That's where my mother-in-law talks all the time about the New York Fair, and she never mentions TV as being the big thing. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk myself out of New York.
Oh,
Montreal, St. Louis. Isn't that the one that the Christmas movies about them going to the fair there? This is just a complete shot in the dark because I have no idea, but I'm going to go with Montreal.
yeah.
That is incorrect. St. Louis is very famous for the World's Fair. It actually hosted several of them, if I'm not mistaken. This was New York. It was New York, Dave. So you did talk yourself out of it, and that was tough, but it was New York. We'll get back on the horse. Next question.
Yes.
Heidi, a chance to get a bigger lead. Here we go. While this president utilized the radio as his most common means of communication with the public, speaking to them almost weekly during the Great Depression, he's also the first U.S. president to ever appear on TV. Is that A, Herbert Hoover, B, Calvin Coolidge, C, Franklin Roosevelt?
Okay, so this I'm going to draw on my musical knowledge because in Annie, there's a We'd Like to Thank You, Herbert Hoover song, because that relates to the Depression and that's before. And then Calvin Coolidge, nobody talks about him. And so I'm going to say Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt is correct.
Wow.
What's weird, Brandon, is you told me you have a song called Coolidge, Oh My Coolidge.
Yeah, and listen, I wasn't prepared to announce that
debut
today,
that?
but yeah.
First ever Calvin Coolidge song.
Yeah, it's coming out soon. Be on the lookout for that.
Can you give me the first, few bars?
Coolidge?
Wow. That's a tease. Heidi.
Oh, my Coolidge.
All right, just the first couple. I think we got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
great.
there's a pregnant pause.
There's a pregnant pause for sure. Dave, it's time to get on the board.
Here we go.
Here's your next question on what you talking about when. While live sports became commonplace TV events, the first sportscast of this sport in 1939 cemented its pastime nomenclature. Is that A, baseball, B, football, C, boxing?
Pastime nomenclature. So America's pastime is baseball. So I'm going to go with that answer.
He's going to go with that
Baseball.
answer, and he is correct.
There you
He's
go.
on the board.
That was good. Old Dave would have talked himself out of it. New Dave is here.
New Dave is here to play.
Yes.
Baseball is the New York of that question. Yeah, we got there.
You got it.
Nomenclature could have thrown a lot of people off. Heidi, your next question. During World War II, the manpower wasn't there to run nearly as many TV networks, which meant that during those lean years, this network was the only to continue extensive commercial programming during the war, which coincidentally didn't help its longevity. Is that A, Dumont, B, CBS, C, RCA?
So CBS is still around, so it can't be CBS because you said it didn't help its longevity. And Dumont, I don't remember that ever being, oh my goodness. Now Dave, you didn't realize I'm old. So that's also a hard part of me going back in the Rolodex of my brain. I'm going to say RCA.
She's going to say RCA. That is incorrect. The Dumont Television Network was a short-lived TV network that competed with CBS, NBC, and ABC and ceased operations on August 6th, 1956. That's a tough one. That was a tricky one.
Yeah, Dumont want to be a TV station anymore. Get it? Like instead of do not
want to be a TV. Are you a caveman?
Dumont.
Yeah, I get it. He doesn't know TV, doesn't know puns.
Yeah.
Doesn't know syntax. That's
Yes.
exactly. Dave, here's the good news for you. You got a chance to tie this bad boy up right here, right now. We're talking about
Dumont, you want to do that?
that Dumont makes sense.
All right,
would be great.
I'll take the rest of the day off.
You please. Dave, you got a chance to tie this bad boy up. We're talking history of TV trivia right here on Who, What, When. Here is your next question. TV pioneer of programming, Sylvester Pat Weaver, was the creator of all of the following 19... Are you okay?
So Sylvester went by Pat?
Yeah, they called him Pat.
Coward.
I'll try it again. TV pioneer of programming, Sylvester Pat Weaver, was the creator of all of the following 1950s talk variety shows, except A, The Today Show, B, The Tonight Show, C, The Ed Sullivan Show.
Okay, so he had a bunch, and he didn't have one of these, which means the other two would be ones he did.
That's right.
All right, so we had the Today Show, the Tonight Show, and Ed Sullivan's Show. So Today and Tonight, those sound like they would need to go together, or else one of them is just playing off of the other one, which seems like, I don't know. Those feel like they pair up together, which would mean that the odd man out is the Ed Sullivan Show. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Ed Sullivan Show.
He's locking in Ed Sullivan Show, and he is once again correct.
Wow.
He's found his footing here on Who, What, When.
You love to see it.
You love to see it, indeed. Dave, you got 2. Heidi, you got 2. Heidi, the next question is...
They're tied.
They're tied. It's a tie ball game. That's exactly right. The next question is yours right here on Who, What You Talking About When. The first TV commercial aired in 1941 for this product during the Brooklyn Dodgers-Philadelphia Phillies game, which signaled a new time for television. It cost the company $9 whole. Is that A, coffee, B, wristwatches, C, automobiles?
All right. So I can't imagine it being wristwatches because during a baseball game, well, actually, I can't imagine it being coffee. I would think during a baseball game, it would be either watches or the cars. And to spend frivolous money like $9 during that time, I would think it would be a car company because even today, they're the ones who spend a lot of money on advertisements. So I'm going to say a car commercial.
That would have been my guess too, Heidi. That is incorrect.
Oh, no.
But the clue in the question was signaled a new time for television.
Oh.
It's sneaky. We were looking for wristwatches. In fact, a specific company called Bulova. Is it Bolova is what I'm hearing from my producer.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
You said it. Automobiles, Dumont.
Boulevarding of Broken
yes.
Dreams. Got it. Yes. We worked on it. We workshopped it.
It'll make sense in the edit. The tagline was, America runs on Bulova. It runs on Duncan now, but back then, Bulova. All
That's
right.
crazy.
Still a tie ball game. We got 3 questions left in the round. David, your next question here. Possibly the first nationwide scandal of live TV was when contestant of this game show, Charles Van Doren, was found out to be receiving his answers in advance. Years later, a film was made of the entire event starring Ray Fiennes and John Turturro. Is that A, Treasure Hunt, B, the $64,000 question, or C, 21?
So all 3 of these shows I've never heard of.
Good start.
21, I would imagine, would be a show where you have 21 questions, or else it's a gambling show. Treasure Hunt sounds like a game show where you have to basically answer questions to get yourself through the map to get to the end. $64,000 question. That sounds like the early stages of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah.
But given the time, it was probably equivalent to $1 million. So if he was getting the questions in advance, I guess I got to go with what would be 21 gives you like, you would know exactly how many questions you need to have. So that would be a good starting place to get the answer. So I have no idea if any of these shows are fake or if they're all real, but I'm still going to guess 21.
1, they're all real. 2, I'm pretty positive that's not what 21 meant. I think it was about getting to that number to win. And 3, you're still accurately correct.
Doesn't matter how you got there.
Doesn't matter how you got there. That is correct. And anytime I can talk about the movie Quiz Show, I talk about the movie Quiz Show. The late, great Robert Redford directed Quiz Show. If you think that movie sounds interesting, it is riveting and you should check it out immediately. That's just from me to you. All right, Dave, you got your first lead. Heidi, back to you. Let's see if we can get back on the board here. All of the following were hosts of NBC's Tonight Show, except A, Steve Allen, B, Dave Garroway, C, Johnny Carson.
I cried my eyes out when Johnny Carson went off the air because to me, he was like a member of my family.
Wow.
That was a special treat to stay up to watch him. And I watched several videos of Steve Allen, so I know it's Dave Garroway.
Great job, Heidi. That is correct. Tie ball game once more. We've got one more question left in this round, all about the history of TV.
Do you think Dave Garroway ever wore tearaway pants, and they called them Garraway's tearaways?
I do not think so.
Man,
You see how I did that?
it took us a while, but that was perfect.
If that's not clicking on all cylinders,
That's really good.
I don't know what you need for us. Did we plan it on the drive down? Maybe.
Maybe we did.
Yeah, of course. We definitely do that show prep. Dave, your last question here about the history of TV. Which of the following game-changing TV sitcoms of the 1970s was not based on a British TV show? Is that A, Sanford and Son, B, Three's Company, or C, Happy Days?
Okay. Well, Sanford and Son, you could just swap out the names, and that sounds like it could easily be a British show. Same with the what was it? Three's Company.
Three's Company.
Three's Company.
Two's never
Three's
been company.
Yeah. I mean, Happy Days feels quintessential American. You've got the Fonz. How would you even have an equivalent Brit Fonz? So I think I'm going to go Happy Days, but I'm going to go Happy Days. Leaning in.
Happy Days is correct.
Really well done.
And I thought there was a British Fonz
Yeah.
that said by Jove instead of hey. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
Sanford and Son, originally a British show called Steptoe and Son. And I loved it so much I had to
Steptoe
include
and Son.
by Jove.
This is Who What When. I'm Brandon Gray here with my co-host Daniel Thompson, and we're playing games all about the history of TV this week.
Our contestants Heidi and David are off to a great start. It's anyone's game at this point, but that will change with our next round, all about presidential TV gaffes.
That's coming up right after this break here on Who What When.
Welcome back to Who What When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson here with my good buddy Brandon Gray, and it's TV week here on this radio program.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Before we get back to our games, we want to remind you that you can be a contestant on a future episode of Who What When. I think it's a lot of fun.
It is. It totally is.
All you got to do is call or text us, 803-470-6347, or send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
Brandon, this week we have Heidi from California and David from North Carolina playing with us. Whoever wins this second round will be named our Who What When Champion of the Week. And get this.
What?
They're going to move on to our final game for a chance at the weekly prize. That's not just any weekly prize. That's the Who What When fanny
No
pack.
way.
I know. Let's see how they do with our next game. It's called Whoops What Wins.
David and Heidi, the whoops in this game, they're the presidential TV gaffes. That's times when U.S. presidents have flubbed, misspoke, or just all around said or did something that they shouldn't have while on TV. We'll describe the gaffe. You tell us which president was responsible for said gaffe.
Heidi, the first question is yours. Here we go. By this point in television history, even grand jury trials were on closed-circuit TV, eventually leaked to the public, and then eventually shown on television, which gave everyone a front-row seat to this president's classic 1998 line. It depends on what the meaning of the word is. A, Richard Nixon. B, Bill Clinton. C, George W. Bush.
Okay, I'm trying to do the timeline of. So I know Clinton's the first president I voted for, and that was in 92. So I'm going to guess, darn it, anytime the president was on TV, I just watched something else or went out to play when I was a kid.
Fair.
So I'm going to say Clinton.
She's going to say Clinton, and she arrived at the correct answer.
There you go.
Bill Clinton being impeached after lying under oath about his relationship with Monica Lewinsky. It
Yes.
depends on what the meaning of the word is.
Man.
That's the is. Great job, Heidi. Dave, you ready for your first question here on Whoops What When? Here we go. In showing up to provide updates on what FEMA was doing to help in the relief efforts after Hurricane Irma, this president said, "I'm thankful for the vice president being here. Melania really wished she could be here and so sad she couldn't make it. Melania was standing 1 foot right next to him." Is that A, Joe Biden, B, Donald Trump, C, Barack Obama?
I mean, it sounds like, well, if Melania was there, then I can't imagine she would have been there for anybody other than Trump, and also everything else about it. I'm just going to say Trump.
He's going to say Trump, and he is correct. It is Trump. That is accurate. Can you imagine Melania being next to Barack Obama as he talks about
Listen, she
Hurricane
has a
Irma?
great hat collection.
She has a great hat collection, and the president didn't know his wife was there. What a time to be alive.
It's
All
tricky.
right, Heidi, back to you. Your next question here about presidential TV gaffes. At the 1988 Republican National Convention, this president said on national television, "They'll push, and I'll say no. And they'll push again, and I'll say to them, read my lips, no new taxes." The crowd went nuts. 2 years later, he raised taxes. Is that A, Ronald Reagan, B, George H.W. Bush, C, Jimmy Carter?
All right. So 1988. The read my lips, I'm pretty sure it's Reagan. I was in high school. And again, anytime the president was on TV, I left the room because back then, if the president was on TV, there was nothing else to watch. But I'm pretty sure the read my lips was Reagan.
I got to tell you, leaving the room when the president was talking in high school cost you on who what went.
It did. On this specific game.
That's right.
It cost.
That you were like, it's not like I'm ever going to have a trivia game. Turns out you are. George H.W. Bush was campaigning as a possible new president at the time, serving for Reagan as his vice president. Tricky one there, understand.
In his defense, he said he would say no if they pushed and pushed again. Never said if they pushed a third time.
He didn't say anything about that.
That's out of his hands at that point.
Who is they? I don't know. The Democrats? I
Who
got no
can
idea.
say?
All right, Dave, a chance to take a 2-point lead here with your next question about presidential TV gaffes. During a televised interview with this president, they asked him what important decisions his vice president, Richard Nixon, had helped him make. The president said, "If you give me a week, I might think of one." It was such a memorable moment that when Nixon ran for president in 1960, the Democrats used these quotes in their televised campaign ads. Is that A, Harry Truman, B, Dwight Eisenhower, C, Lyndon Johnson?
This is where it would have really been helpful for me to remember who Nixon was the vice president.
Sure.
That would have definitely helped.
That's your big hint.
Yeah.
That's the big hint. Okay, so we got Truman, Johnson, or
Eisenhower. Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't have much to go off of here other than for some reason I'm leaning towards not Eisenhower and not Lyndon. Actually, I don't know why I'm associating Truman with Nixon. Like I said, I should know who he was the vice president of, but I'm going to go with Harry S. Truman.
Harry S. Truman was the president right before Dwight Eisenhower, whose vice president was Richard Nixon. You missed it by one president. So incorrect, but timely guess comparatively to Lyndon Johnson, who was much later. To tie this thing back up, Heidi, here is your next question. Along with the current Secretary of State, the last 2 U.S. presidents have been caught on camera, on TV, having trouble staying on 2 feet while traversing this common terrain for the leader of the free world. Is that A, Pennsylvania Avenue, B, the Rose Garden, or C, the stairs up to Air Force One?
Oh, I've seen the videos. The stairs up to Air Force One.
You're correct, Heidi, and we got ourselves a tie ball game. We're playing Whoops, What, Win, a show all about presidential TV gaffes. Dave, your next question here. This former president was giving a statement on the current state of world affairs at a press conference when he said there was no reason to launch a totally unjustified and brutal attack on Iraq. I mean Ukraine. Well, Iraq too, but anyway. Is that A, Barack Obama, B, George W. Bush, or C, Joe Biden?
Because you said Ukraine, the only other president we've had, and assuming that this is, you said post-Iraq, so it has to be the Ukraine attacks I'm thinking of. And the only other president that I can think of that was president during that time would have been our Joe Biden. So I'm going to say Joe Biden.
So the president doesn't have to be the president when they're saying these things.
That's a fair point.
The guy that launched what he classified as a totally unjustified and brutal attack on Ukraine is the president that launched the same thing on Iraq. And this is a recent speech he gave where he says Iraq by mistake, and then he says Ukraine, and then later he admits that what he did when he was president was also brutal and a mistake. It was a tricky one. That was George W. Bush, though, Dave.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Tricky, though.
All right, still a tie ball game. 3 questions left. Heidi, here's your question. This president, thought to be the clear favorite because of experience, lost all of that mojo after participating in the first ever televised debate, where his fumbled speech and sweaty upper lip looked downright unpresidential next to the young, handsome, and polished upstart Democrat from Massachusetts. Is that A, Harry Truman, B, Richard Nixon, C, Lyndon Johnson?
So the good-looking young guy was JFK. I should have listened to my mom more when she talked about. And believe it or not, U.S. history is my favorite subject.
I believe it.
And get me at the colonial America, and I'm your man.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to say Johnson.
She's going to say Johnson, who was JFK's vice president. We're looking for one Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a tough one. We got 3 left, and we're tied still.
Man.
And the questions here on Whoops What When are really starting to trick them.
They're whoopsies.
They're whoopsies.
These are whoopsies.
Here we go, Dave. You ready for your next one?
Sure am.
In introducing Ukrainian President Zelensky, he said, and now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, President Putin. He started walking away. His eyes got really big, realized his mistake, came back to the mic and said, Putin, I'm so worried about beating Putin that I said the wrong name. Is that A, Barack Obama, B, Donald Trump, C, Joe Biden?
I want to redeem myself for having guessed Joe Biden on the last question by again guessing it this time. Joe Biden.
That's a great strategy, and it's a correct guess. Joe Biden is correct.
Wow.
It was the eyes.
Yeah,
the
is what
eyes.
done it.
You got to see him. He looks like a Glass Joe in Punch-Out when he gets hit in the stomach. He's like,
Yeah.
It's
you know
fantastic.
what? Kudos to him for catching it, I guess.
yeah. With Zelensky right next to him.
Yeah.
Melania was 1 foot away from
That's
him.
crazy.
All right, here we go. Trying to tie this back up, Heidi. Here we go. This president, speaking of the president he worked with as vice president during the defeat of the Cold War, said, a word about the president. For 7.5 years, I've worked alongside him. I'm proud to have been his partner. We've had triumphs. We've made some mistakes. We've had some sex. He then smiles as everyone in the room laughs and says, we've had some setbacks. Is that A, George H.W. Bush, B, Gerald Ford, C, Jimmy Carter?
I always feel like trying to think of when the end of the Cold War was. Bush is way far away from the rest of them. And at this point, my brain is mush. And Jimmy Carter, I feel, is my president because he was my childhood president. So I'm just going to go with Carter.
All right. This was another, it's tricky to remember the order of these guys, but Carter was before Reagan. Reagan's vice president, who worked with him for 7.5 years, was George H.W. Bush. Tough. I get it, though. I get how if you were a kid, they would all kind of jumble together.
Yep.
Tough here. All right, Dave, one more question here for you. In the televised debate of 1976 between these two candidates, who were both U.S. presidents, the sound system malfunctioned at Philadelphia's Walnut Street Theater, forcing a 27-minute delay televised during the debate where both candidates stood still, motionless, and silent the entire time. People didn't know what was going on. Later, one of the candidates admitted that he and his counterpart would have definitely loved to sit down and relax, but were worried viewers might find that they were physically or mentally weak in a time of crisis. Were these two presidents, Carter and Ford, Ford and Reagan, Reagan and Mondale?
Okay. I think Reagan would be one of them because he's in 2 of them. It's a good answer.
That's fair.
To have. And I just remember you saying that Reagan was right after Carter, which would put him in the sweet spot, I think, for that time. So it was Reagan and Ford, and then the other one was who again? Reagan and who?
Reagan and Mondale.
Mondale. There's a guy that doesn't want to appear weak. I'm gonna go Reagan and Mondale, actually.
Do you remember Mondale ever being president? These two candidates who are both U.S. presidents. So that would have been the clue there.
I should have had to reread the question because
but also the good news is Dave, you still won by 1.
Yeah,
you still won by 1. Congratulations, you've won. You're the Who What Win Champion of the Week. You get to stick around to play for the Who What Win fanny pack.
That's right.
And Heidi, you didn't watch the president on TV growing up, and you performed valiantly, one away from being the champion of the week. Thank you so much for joining us here on Who What When.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you. Had a blast. You actually knew the answers from experience, and mine were all guesses.
This is Who What When. I'm Brandon Gray here with my friend Daniel Thompson. And this week we're tuning in for games and trivia all about TV.
That's right, Bran. Our contestant David from Asheville, North Carolina, has just secured the title of Who What When Champion of the Week.
Wow.
He's now heading to our final round for a shot at our weekly prize, that Who What When fanny pack.
We'll see if he can make it, but first we'll speak with a Clemson University professor about television's impact on society. That's next on Who What When.
Welcome back to Who What When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson here with my best buddy, Brandon Gray. This week, we're discussing the history of television.
We're going to get back to our games in just a few minutes, Dan, but first, it's time for our occasional teacher spotlight. Dan, every so often, we like to invite an expert from the world of academia to provide us with a little more context to the topics that we're covering. Joining us now is Dr. Deanna Sellnow, who is the professor and chair of the Department of Communications at Clemson University. She is also the author of the book, The Power of Popular Culture, Considering Mediated Text.
Deanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Deanna, you follow the impact TV and media have on cultural values. And before we talk about the broader picture, what has been your personal relationship with TV?
Oh, I grew up with television. In fact, if you look at the history of television, it really became a mainstay in American households in the 1960s. And I'm a product of the 1960s myself. And so I feel I've grown up with it. So I've watched every decade, sort of the shifts and trends and how it's being consumed and how people interact with it. And mostly I'm interested in the underlying messages that communication programming is teaching us, albeit not necessarily known by the consumers as we're watching the television programs. I'm always looking for how it's teaching us how we ought to believe and behave.
So one of those shifts was originally early on, TV was mainly news or educational. At some point, they began to shift towards entertainment, where there were more shows that were tackling different issues in society and whatnot. When did that really begin, and why do you think that was?
Well, in the 1960s, it was a lot of news programming, and they thought it was going to be the next great educator. And so they did have a lot of educational programming, but they also had entertainment programs, but they were very wholesome. They were like sitcoms like Leave It to Beaver, Andy Griffith, or Dick Van Dyke. And they were variety shows like Carol Burnett and Sonny and Cher. Maybe The Wonderful World of Disney started in the 60s. But the real shift to what you're talking about happened in the 1970s. And I attribute a lot of that to the realism that the consumers got to see so much of the Vietnam War experience in the late 1960s, and then Watergate in the early 1970s. And so in the 1970s was the real shift toward realism, cultural commentary, diverse programming. All of that happened in the 1970s with All in the Family, Maude, The Jeffersons, MASH, those kinds of programs.
Yeah, and Dr. Sellnow, TV is where people all went for a communal experience from their own homes. Now we have streaming.
Yeah.
And so you don't really need a television set to watch virtually everything that comes on TV. What does that mean? What is this turning point for us over the last 15 years where the actual television set part of TV is the least important part now? How does that affect the cultural medium that we still clearly use, even if it's on our phone or our tablet?
That's a really, really good question, because if you look through the history of television, they're actually saying that this rise in digital technology and our smartphones and our computers and whatnot, that we can watch any kind of programming that want to with streaming, has become the new golden age in television. So they're predicting that this is going to be a huge, and it's already starting, huge shift in how we consume and interact with television programming. And I think you probably feel it. Most of us do feel it. It's very different. One of the things that's really changed in terms of some of that is streaming platforms such as Apple TV or Netflix are actually creating their own movies, whereas it used to come from Academy producer industries, and now it's coming from these providers, and they're even winning Academy Awards. Apple TV's Coda about a deaf family won the Academy Award.
One of the cool things about TV is that multiple people can watch the same thing and kind of get something different out of it. And I understand that you use Charlie Brown Christmas to kind of make that point to your students. Can you talk about how you utilize that special specifically when you're talking about how things can be interpreted through different lenses?
I'm so glad that you asked that question, because I really think this little example helps us see how multiple messages are being conveyed at the same time about cultural values and how we ought to believe and behave in a programming. Even in children's programming, like Charlie Brown Christmas, that seems like it's on the surface, and it is on the surface, about a feel-good movie about kids realizing that Christmas isn't just all about consumerism and we should, be good and kind to each other and there's beauty in everything. That might be the surface message of the story. But one of the things that I do with my students is we take different rhetorical lenses and we look at what rises up as the messages from these different perspectives. For example, a neo-Marxist perspective is one that looks at how we ought to support or oppose the assumption that those with more money and more material possessions ought to be the ones that are empowered, and those who do not have money and possessions ought not to be empowered. They shouldn't be the people making the rules. And you think about the messages in the program. First, they wanted to have a glamorous pink Christmas tree, right? And that was what they were supposed to have. But ultimately, by the end of the film, the scrawny little tree that Charlie Brown found becomes the beautiful Christmas tree when Linus wraps his blanket around it and they decorate it up. And so the shifting of the message from not consumerism and material possessions to the beauty of the scrawny little tree, that would be a neo-Marxist perspective. From a feminist perspective is another lens that you can put over it. And then you're really looking at how should boys and girls operate and behave, and what does a girl should look like and act like, and a boy should look like and act like. And if you think about the girls in the Christmas show, you've got Sally, who's talking about wanting lots of money, 10s and 20s. You see Lucy wanting to have lots of real estate. And Snoopy makes fun of her behind her back because she's bossy. And the naturally curly-haired girl is just worried about her natural curls. So if you think about little girls watching that show and little boys, they think, well, girls shouldn't be bossy. Girls should be pretty and have the naturally curly hair, and girls are materialistic. They want lots of money, 10s and 20s in real estate. That's the message from that perspective, right?
Yeah.
And so that is actually being conveyed while this feel-good story is being conveyed. I'll tell you one more perspective.
Yeah, please do.
Neo-Aristotelian perspective, which is about any kind of speeches being given. The big speech in that movie is when Linus gets up and said, that's what Christmas is really all about. If you look at that message, that's actually perpetuating a Christian message of ideological perspective, that's how we ought to believe and behave.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I could do this all day, Dr. Sellnow. I'm serious. What are some other TV shows that are favorites for illustrations in your classroom?
I love to talk about Friends.
Okay.
Friends was a very popular show in the 1990s. What I like talking about is let's take the sound off on that and let's just look at what's happening in that program. And I wrote a paper with a student actually about Friends and female body image, because if you look at that evolution of that program from beginning to end, the female characters that are the model characters got thinner and thinner and thinner as the show went on. And they even introduced Fat Monica as an anti-model character for women.
Yeah.
And so we can talk about how those visual representations of how we idealized in that show thin women and actually ostracized Fat Monica, it helps talk about how that can perpetuate a cultural norm of what is ideal body image for females. So we talk a lot about that one. We talk about Weeds. Do you remember the show Weeds?
Oh, yeah. That was the first show ever streamed on Netflix that I didn't watch live. They had it for free early on. That was my first streamer show ever.
Okay, great. Well, that show, is talking about normalizes marijuana, right?
Yeah.
And so some sort of the dark side of making money through maybe not the most appropriate means, but actually glamorizing it as it's normalized. It's okay to break those rules for society. Of course, today marijuana is legal in many states, but at the time of that program, it wasn't. And We talk about the dramatistic perspective there, which is about how do we, when we break the roles and rules of what is appropriate behavior in society, and that's breaking rules in that show, how do we absolve our guilt and make it and normalize it that this is okay? This isn't a bad thing. And that's a good example of that.
I want to take this class.
Yeah, sounds like a great one. Growing up in America, you're kind of taught to believe that everybody's just following in America's footsteps. And I'm curious how American TV kind of influenced the rest of the world, but also how TV that is made in different parts of the world kind of influenced what we do in America.
British TV has been one area where there's been some influence. They've pushed the envelope in terms of cultural commentary before we have done so in the U.S. And we've built programming off some of the programs that they did. Then we would come up with our own alternative version of that. But otherwise, we have been sort of the mainstay in terms of how I do a lot of traveling. For my research, I travel all over the world. And so I get to watch TV in all different countries. I just came back from Malaysia, and before that I was in Romania.
Wow.
But I get to see what programming is happening over there. And what is fascinating to me, for example, when we were in Romania, I was looking for a program that was in English. I always try to see what's on their television programming. And the Hallmark movies that we sort of make fun of here because they're feel-good, happy movies, they are every night at 7 p.m. there in Romanian time, one of those Hallmark movies comes on. It's usually one that's about 5 years old. But again, we're actually penetrating multiple cultures with actually Hallmark programs.
And are those dubbed or subtitled?
They are subtitled, so I can listen to them in English.
How about that?
Wow.
I mean, we have this in common, you and I. I love a Hallmark movie. I love a Hallmark Christmas movie.
We're in our heyday again right now.
I know. Now, one of the things that's interesting about Hallmark is that they're kind of like this weird outlier when it comes to linear TV, and that they're still really pushing out content, and they're kind of still thriving when everybody else is kind of trying to figure out like what are we going to do next. Why do you think Hallmark and these made-for-TV movies lend themselves to still working with traditional linear TV when everything else is kind of moving towards streaming?
That's a very good question, and I don't have an absolute answer to that, but I do have some speculations.
Sure.
And I think that we're in digital, everything with digital and technology and AI and social media is going so fast in terms of people don't really know how to respond to it and how it's really going to influence us. And people are looking for the feel-good, wholesome alternative to get really the escapism from some of the stressors that we're all facing in our lives in the world today. And I think that that's why the Hallmark is appealing to so many people in its traditional format. Predictable. The predictability of it is really appealing in an uncertain world. I was looking at the only 3 cable series shows that had an uptick in terms of viewership that garnered more than 1.5 million viewers in 2024 were Yellowstone, but then the other 2 were both from Hallmark. When Calls the Heart and The Way Home.
Yeah. Yep. We've seen all of those.
We've seen them all.
Dr. Sellnow, we're talking about linear TV kind of dying aside from some exceptions. It does feel like, as someone that grew up with TV and now streaming, that we were saturated with content. Like there used to be a consistent water cooler show, right? The Sopranos, we all talked about what happened on Monday. We talked about what happened on Sunday night, or Friends, or Seinfeld, or The West Wing, or any of these shows. And now we have, Apple TV has a line of prestige dramas. Netflix has a line of prestige. Peacock, Paramount. What has replaced the water cooler show, the prestige show? Like what is it that we do now when it comes to TV? Is it the viral moment? I don't know if you have any thoughts there. But then 2, what occasionally we will still have a show that rises above all of that in the cultural zeitgeist. So even though we're saturated, occasionally we'll still have a show like Yellowstone. What are the characteristics of shows that end up doing that?
It appears to me that those programs that seem to cut through all of the noise and attract a number of people so that we can have a conversation about them, they uniquely touch on something about the human condition as it is right now. And so multiple people who have different, views on life seem to all gravitate toward it. And so it becomes a talking point again. But those are far and few between right now, partly because people can binge watch too, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have that ongoing, even though it might be a 6-episode series, a lot of people will wait and they'll watch it all in a binge moment. So it doesn't become an ongoing conversation in the way it did when we had to wait till the next Thursday and the next Thursday and the next Thursday to see the program.
I want to end with a very simple question, which is, what are you watching right now?
What are you watching? I love it.
Hallmark movies.
Oh, yeah?
I will admit it. I watch pretty much right now. I'm a big Hallmark mysteries, and so that's probably my first go-to. I just love those mysteries because I like to try to predict what the answer is to that. Keeps me interested. But I also like the Hallmark Christmas movies. Those are my go-tos. And then sports. I'm a big college sports fan, and I'm a Minnesota fan for all the professional sports because that's where I was born and raised.
The old sports Hallmark combo.
The staples of linear TV.
That's exactly
There you
right.
go.
Dr. Deanna Sellnow is a professor and chair of the Department of Communications at Clemson University. She's also the author of The Rhetorical Power of Popular Culture, Considering Mediated Texts. Deanna, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're listening to Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia from South Carolina Public Radio. I'm Daniel Thompson here with my co-host, Brandon Gray. Our topic this week, the history of television.
I'm having a blast, Dano. But before we get to our final round, a quick reminder that you can join us for a future episode of Who, What, When. All you have to do is call or text us. It's 803-470-6347, or you can send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
This week's contestant, David from North Carolina, has won the title of Who, What, When Champion of the Week. That's settled. You can't take it.
You can't take that from him.
Now he has a chance at something even greater.
Yeah.
Our weekly trophy, that sweet, sweet Who, What, When fanny pack. All that's in the way is our last game today. It's one we're calling TV or Not TV.
That is the question.
It really is.
Yeah, David, here's how TV or not TV is going to work. We have TV shows that sound like they're too bizarre to actually make it onto the TV. Some of these are actual real programs that audiences may have seen. Some are completely made up. We'll describe the plot of these shows, and for each one, you have to tell us if it was real TV or fake, not TV.
All right, David, you ready to go?
Let's go.
All right. In the 1960s, the TV show My Mother the Car had a brief one-year run on NBC, with Jerry Van Dyke starring in the lead role of David Crabtree, a man whose mother had been reincarnated as a car.
Yes.
The villain of the show is a character named Captain Manzini, who was always scheming ways to take the car from David and his family. Dave, TV or not TV?
I hope that's TV. I'm going to say TV.
This is a game where Brand goes, boy, I hope this is TV.
100%.
That is TV.
Yeah.
I got to watch this show.
We'll look
And-
up some stills for sure.
I actually just found out that's actually where the word reincarnated came from. It's this show.
Reincarnated. That's good.
I'll be here
That's
all
good.
week.
Yeah, you will. All right, you got one, Dave. You need 4 more. Here we go. The 1967 ABC show, The Second 100 Years, featured a 33-year-old prospector named Luke Carpenter, who had left his wife and infant son in 1900, hoping to strike it rich, only to be buried in a freak Alaskan avalanche.
Oh my gosh.
67 years later, another avalanche thawed him out, and he returned home to a 67-year-old son and 33-year-old grandson, the same age as Luke. The premise set up a fish out of water and mistaken identity plot lines played for laughs. Is that TV or not TV?
Wow. I mean, so the thing that's getting me here is that another avalanche on fire.
Yeah, I don't know if that's how avalanches work.
Double avalanche situation, yeah.
But, and then it just seems like a hard premise to really work with. So he comes back, and then as if that wasn't enough, the main thing is that they're the same age. And so then it's just this show about them being mistaken with each other. So, I mean, I'm going to have to throw a not TV out once. So at some point. So I'm going to say not TV.
You would certainly think so. You really would. This is a real TV program.
Wow.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
Double
avalanche.
it cancels it out.
Yeah, the second one knocked the first one off.
And then there you go. And then it kept going. The second avalanche came, swept away, and then kept going.
Kept going.
Allowed him to.
It's a bigger Vance, you know what I mean?
How about that? Big Vance.
Here's your next question on TV or not TV. CBS's Me and the Chimp was a mid-season replacement for the network in 1972, which featured a nonverbal, normal chimpanzee named Buttons, found by two children in the park and taken home to their parents. Without the pull of a talking animal a la Mr. Ed, the goal was for this to play like a chimp version of Lassie or Flipper, but with more laughs. Buttons was named such because he loved to push buttons, driving the Reynolds family crazy, like one episode where the Reynolds house was burglarized, but Buttons is the only witness. TV or not TV?
God, I'm starting to wonder if these are all TV. Buttons. So the premise of the show is that the monkey's always pressing the wrong button.
Yeah.
Getting them all riled up. I see. Gosh, all right. I'm going to try one more not TV before I just go all in on these are all TV shows. Not TV.
It is TV.
Oh my gosh.
It is TV. Look it up once
I'm
again.
simultaneously upset for Dave, but also really happy for Buttons.
Me and the Chimp.
Love Buttons.
Love Buttons. All right, Dave, next one, TV or not TV. Some would say that the 1985 NBC program Clone Sweet Clone walked. Are you okay?
That's great.
Clone
Who,
Sweet,
what, when?
Yeah.
Clone.
Some would say that the 1985 NBC program Clone Sweet Clone walked so that Michael Keaton's multiplicity could run. After a lab mishap at the Department of Agriculture, janitor Carl Higgins, played by Bryce Beckham, is accidentally cloned 6 times.
Wow.
Now living with his 6 identical but differently costumed selves, Carl must navigate life, work, and romance while hiding his duplicates from his nosy landlord, Estelle. Each clone had one exaggerated personality trait, including flirty Carl, hippie Carl, and nudist Carl.
Whoa.
The show was marketed as Three's Company with Science. Is that TV or not TV?
God, this is marketed as Three's Company, huh? Oh my gosh. Okay, so now I am afraid to say not TV. I've been scared into this position, even though this one seems the craziest so far of all of them. The nudist, which I guess they would have had to blur it out, of course. This is primetime TV. You can't be showing things like that. You said Michael Keaton?
I referenced the movie Michael Keaton was in called Multiplicity, which is basically this premise, but only 2 clones.
But can you imagine?
Okay, so we're not saying Michael Keaton was in this show. Okay.
This is Bryce Beckham.
Shout out.
That actually does make it, somehow that makes it more plausible to me. Because if Michael Keaton had been in this, I feel like I would have heard about this little Birdman out episode. Gosh, you guys have scared me into saying not TV, so I'm going to say TV.
It's not TV.
No!
Oh my gosh. Dave! What a way. I can see how you do this. You make sure that you think that there's an unlimited amount of possibility.
There is.
And then when you squeeze in the lies.
I got to be honest, Dave. I can't wait to see what you do next.
All right, Dave, here's your next question on TV or not TV. In 1968, ABC launched the short-lived show, The Ugliest Girl in Town, which starred Peter Kastner as Timothy Blair, a low-level employee at a talent agency who, after helping his photographer brother, is mistaken for a female model named Timmy. Because of the gambling debts and getting stuck in London, Blair keeps up the ruse to make money to pay off his debts. TV or not TV?
There's so many times I kept thinking this was going to be about a woman, and then it kept being a man as the name.
Yeah, couldn't air now, I don't think.
Okay, I'm going to say not TV.
It's TV.
No!
Oh my gosh. I thought that maybe you guys used ChatGPT to write it and they got the genders mixed.
Yeah, I wish that's a real thing written by a real person and a real actor.
Oh my gosh, I'm barely able to have a chance at this.
How, I mean, I don't want to get in the weeds here, but how was Timothy Blair mistaken as a female model
His
named
photographer needed a stand-in model, and he subbed it.
Timmy? Got it.
It was the 60s. Got to go perfect, Dave. Here we go. CBS's 1990 show Cop Rock was trying to capitalize on a laundry list of musical TV shows that came before it, like The Monkees, The Partridge Family, and others. The problem was that Cop Rock was more drama than anything, with musical numbers breaking up a downright gritty police procedural. The musical numbers were hard-hitting and dramatic as well, tackling issues like dirty cops, racism, and corrupt politicians. The kicker? Some of the gritty songs performed, as well as the theme song, were all written by Randy Newman.
Oh, no way. Wow.
TV or not TV?
Randy Newman. I mean, just purely on the, I would have thought that I'd have heard. I'm a Newman fan, but I guess maybe this one was still think he tried to hide. We'll see if this is another chance to get a not TV. So not TV.
It's TV.
Oh, no. Dave.
There's only one not TV in this game.
Let's hear your next clue here on TV or not TV. Occasional Wife was a 1966 NBC show that lasted only one season. Michael Callan starred as Peter Christopher, a young businessman trying to get ahead at work, a baby food company. Because his boss wouldn't promote him because he was unmarried, Peter strikes a deal with a woman named Greta, an aspiring artist. The deal was Peter would pay for Greta's art lessons, and Greta would pretend to be Peter's wife, even living in his apartment when needed. Series was narrated by LA Dodgers broadcasting legend Vin Scully.
What?
TV or not TV?
This is the hardest game I've ever played. What always fascinates me is that you said these are not individual episodes, but it just is amazing to me that this could be an entire show's premise, is that you could do this one thing, that he's going to have a fake wife for a whole show to sell some baby food.
Yeah.
And also narrated by Vin Scully.
Good Lord. I mean, I feel like as soon as I say TV, that's going to be the one that is not TV, is how this is going to go. This just sounds insane. I can get one more wrong, right?
Yes.
Still get the fanny pack?
Yes.
All right. TV.
You got one.
did it.
You got one.
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
Real show.
He
We're
really
back.
did narrate
We're back.
that.
Yes, legend Vin Scully narrated this show called Occasional Wife.
There you go.
All right, you got 3 left. You got to get them all right. That's the bottom line. Here we go. The 1973 ABC series Jetpack Justice was a massive swing for the network and a massive miss. Set in the far-off future of 1992, Jetpack Justice followed Captain Rex Velocity, played by Lee Majors,
Yes.
a jetpack-wearing airborne cop,
Yes.
and his sassy, talking German Shepherd sidekick, Booster, voiced by Don Rickles. Together, they patrolled Los Angeles from the sky, fighting sky crimes like aerial graffiti, hovercar theft, and rogue blimp gangs. TV or not TV?
You know, I was just, my nephews and nieces were watching a show called Quest for Camelot that has a song that's sung by, I found out, Don Rickles. So he does voice work.
There you
I have
go.
precedent for this. Yeah, it's him with Eric Idle, which is an amazing pairing for singing the song. I'm going to go with the TV.
He's going to go with TV, and it isn't TV.
Oh,
I knew as soon as I said TV, it was going to
Man.
not be TV again.
David, things were going great. I'm sure Asheville is lovely. This game got you.
yeah.
And I don't blame you. These are tough. This game got you. You're still the Who What Win champion of the week.
And no one can take that from you.
No one can take that from you. You can put that on every resume that you ever hand in. We appreciate you playing. We had a ton of fun. Thanks for joining us, and congrats on being champion of the week.
Thanks, guys. I really am going to keep my eye on the prize for the next chance.
And that's a wrap on this episode all about the history of television. Thanks again to our callers, David and Heidi, for playing with us today. And congratulations again to David for being this week's Who What Win Champion of the Week.
Our producer's A.T. Shire. Our executive producer is Sean Birch, who's more of a Charlie Bucket than a Mike TV. This show is a production of South Carolina Public Radio and is made possible in part by listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina.
You can join us for an episode of Who What Win. All you have to do is call or text us 803-470-6347 or send us an email to whowhatwin@scpublicradio.org.
You can find out more about the show at our website, whowhatwinshow.org.
And you can listen to an extended version of the show in your favorite podcast app or through your smart speaker.
I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Braden Gray. Join us again next week for more history, games, and trivia right here on Who What Win.